Short squeezing in silver continues, and this is what miners are experiencing as a result. Jim McDonald, CEO of Kootenay Silver, is here to join us to talk about the experiences that he's seeing right now and what he plans to do in response. Jim, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure being here.
It's an exciting week, or at least the start of a week for many markets, and in particular silver. I'm looking at your stock today. As of Monday, is around 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Your stock is up 14%. So walk us through what you think happened overnight.
Well, yeah, it's a pretty exciting day. I mean, this whole thing with the Reddit going after silver and SilverSqueeze, and so it's obviously having an impact there. It's quite an interesting new dynamic we haven't seen before. Prior to that happening, I mean, to us, this is just an accelerant to what was already underway. We were already well into a silver bull market, testing that $30 mark several times. And this has really accelerated it. And one thing that it's doing is changing the general market awareness about silver itself. So this is going to be very interesting dynamic on the psychology of the market, if nothing else.
I know that some of these Wall Street bettors who have targeted other stocks like GameStop and AMC last week, they did so partly because those stocks have been heavily shorted. Now, can the same narrative be applied to silver companies? Have you noticed a lot of short action on your stock prior to this week?
Well, not our stock specifically, but there are certain individual stocks where you see that happening. And but for us specifically, I'd say no. We're trading more in the fundamentals of the silver price and on the news flow that we have and the discoveries we're making.
Now, 15% is an extraordinary move, even for a junior miner in one day. Do you think this price movement is sustainable?
Well, yeah, I do. As day to day, who knows? With the volatility, who knows what that's like? But on the long-term charts and trends, whether we see what's happening with our company and our projects and the silver price combined, it certainly is a sustainable trend.
Okay, so what would you tell investors who are interested in knowing more about your stock right now? Would you advise them to hold off, or is now a good time?
Well, I'm not an advisor. I'm a president and CEO, so I'm always bullish on the company's prospects. And this year, I mean, our prospects here are better than they've ever been.
Yeah.
With the several projects we have a huge resource base with improved silver prices. The potential economics are changing. We've got 2 new discoveries going on with high-grade silver projects in Mexico. We're well financed. We got big drill programs coming up, and a lot of things here coming in the new year that could be result in very positive catalysts for the company and the news flow.
Okay, we're gonna drill deeper into your projects, no pun intended, in just a minute. But first, let's talk about the share price again. Are you planning to take advantage of this higher share price to perhaps raise capital? Or perhaps buy back some shares or issue some shares or refinance? Any changes in financing plans at all?
Well, we're well financed for this year's budget, so we're under no pressure to be financing. So we're not looking for financing at the moment. We've got just under 10 million in the treasury right now, so we're in quite good shape for the coming year.
But if you were to raise capital now at these higher prices and just keep the cash in a reserve, wouldn't that also work?
Well, it's never a bad idea to take money. Our last financing was at 40 cents, so we're looking to do the next round of financing here at a higher price. No pressure to go out and finance now, so it would be a better result if we could do something at a higher price.
Okay, so
you're
still expecting higher prices to come then.
Yeah, we are. When we look at the medium term, this is short-term volatility, and who knows how this is going to play out. We have no idea. But in the mid to long term here, we see a pretty sustained bull silver market coming,
Okay.
or underway, in fact.
So you don't think that do you think that the silver industry for all miners has reached a fair value this year, or perhaps last year, back in August when prices were at an all-time high for gold, at least?
Well, no, I think the silver sector has lagged. It's as you're pointing out, it's quite volatile. It's got a lot more sort of leverage to it when it does get going. And we still, on the gold silver ratio, we're still at a line with the historic norm, or median, let's call it. So no, I don't think that I think the sector's still undervalued.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that one of the positive outcomes of this market movement is increased attention on the silver sector, which could educate retail investors a little more about your industry. Now, what are some of the misconceptions do you think already exist about the silver industry, and what do you think you can hope to address today?
Well, I'm not sure about misconceptions, but the silver industry has a very interesting dynamic because it is a currency, it is a precious metal, it trades that way. But at the same time, it's got a very large industrial component, in the industrial demand and use is growing, particularly with the green energy and the application in solar and even in medicine as a very powerful antibiotic. So yeah, that combined creates this inelasticity. When you get a precious metal bull market running, you've got this supply demand elasticity created. And that's where you see the silver price slingshot way past the gold in terms of the gold silver ratio. And that's when that occurs. And this is what we see the setup being right now. We're at that point where silver has not yet swung the other way.
Yeah.
Just a few months ago, we were at all-time high on the gold-silver ratio at about around 120. And the last bull market in silver, it got as low as somewhere around 30 on the ratio. So currently we're in the around 75. So there's a long way to go here. In other words, there's potential for quite an explosive move upward.
Okay, and what would be the trigger, you think, for this explosive move upward, besides Wall Street bettors pouring into the space?
Well, we never know, and maybe this is it. It's hard to predict, and sometimes you can't put your finger on there being a trigger. It just starts to happen.
Yeah.
And this might be it. But the trend is there. We see, if we just look back at history and how the gold silver ratio behaves, and we know that it's going to swing to the other side of the pendulum. There always is some kind of catalyst, and maybe this is it. It looks like it could be.
Jim, if I told you last summer that the catalyst for this higher price this year would be a bunch of teenagers and millennials driving up the price because that's just what they want to do right now. That's what they want to do. These are the people who have never paid attention to silver in their lives before. What would you say?
I'd be startled. I wouldn't know what to say. But yet here we are. I mean, this is a truly very interesting dynamic at play here, and the size and power that it has is pretty impressive. It definitely could be something that changes our market.
Would it concern you at all as a CEO? Let's say, suppose it runs up and then people take profits immediately. Would that change your outlook or operations at all?
Well, for us, we're used to volatility being in the metals market. It's a little more used to the general market. But yeah, extreme volatility is never good up or down. But it does smooth out in the medium long term, and that's really how we plan. We don't plan in the short term.
Okay. Now I want to go back to the industrial demand. You talked about that just now. Have you spoken to any other industry leaders in other sectors who may have hinted to you that there may be a change in industrial demand for silver this year? And any of the other sectors that you've mentioned, solar, medicine?
Yeah, I mean, clearly there is, and especially now with the what looks to be a real worldwide effort into putting a lot of money into the green energy space. So that was already a pretty strongly growing sector in terms of silver consumption, and that looks like it's going to really increase significantly now.
Okay.
So, yeah, what the expectation is there's going to be a lot more demand from that side.
And what about from the supply side, from producers like yourself or explorers?
Well, we're an explorer, but the supply side is a lot tighter, and you can't just turn on the taps. It takes years to get projects discovered and into production, permitted, and financed. So that's part of where the inelasticity comes in. So you're already starting to see things tighten up from just consumption supply, and then you add on the demand from the currency aspect as a precious metal, and that's when you get these real strong bull markets occurring.
So what are your long-term plans for your flagship deposit? Can you walk us through, first of all, the size of the deposit and take us through the next 5 years?
Well, we've got quite an interesting program coming up for 2021, because we've got the Columba high-grade project in Mexico that's been our lead property here in the last 18 months. We're hitting a lot of high grade in several different veins there. So the next steps basically are continue doing that, get enough size visibility here, put a resource out, and then move on to PEA. But we're working off of a asset base here, large resource base, at 92 million ounces of measured indicated silver resource base, and another 24 million in inferred in 2 different deposits. We have a third property that doesn't have a resource calculation on it yet, called La Negra, so we're going to be forwarding that as well. And with the silver move last year, our La Higuera project in Parral State starts to look pretty interesting on paper. So we've been doing a lot of work in the background there with geologic modeling, looking to see if we can improve the grade there and maybe come up with a new resource sometime this year if all that work proves to be good. So in other words, these resource bases are coming back to the fore, and we're doing work to start moving them towards resource updates and moving them into the pipeline of preliminary economic assessment. So quite a busy year. I'll try to sum all of that up. And we've got these new high-grade discoveries at Columba and another at Copolito that we're going to be actively drilling this year, moving them towards a resource estimates. And then we've got our existing silver resources that will be, the work going on there will be moving them towards getting them to new resource updates and PEA.
And none of this market action we're seeing right now has changed your plans and outlook for your developments?
Well, no, this recent activity here in the last week or so, no, that doesn't change our plans. Our plans are more long-term focused.
Okay. And eventually, further down the line, are you planning to go into production?
Well, no, our business plan is to build these assets up individually or in tandem and attract a buyer from a mining company, and then spin out the other assets and do it again.
Okay.
That's the business plan.
All right, fantastic. Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us your update. I appreciate it.
Thank you, David. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for watching Kitco News. I'm David Lin.